Today I'm making a video to show you how to color in your face using oil pastels and the limited palette of oil pastels that we have. I have chosen some colors that most of you will need for your skin tones, and some of them are going to look really dark on camera when they're really not. So you have to read the label of what's on here if you can find a label, or your best friend is going to be to have an extra piece of paper that you can mark on and practice with first. I would always recommend practicing before you put it on your final product because you can't erase oil pastels. So we have brown, we have the color that's called apricot, we have white, which is perfect for highlights, we also have peach, we have blue violet, which is good for shadows of your face, we also have black, which you want to use very, very sparingly. You don't want to use a lot of black unless you just absolutely have to. I'm also going to use this brick red for maybe some lip tones and things like that, but very, very lightly. I've chosen some colors for my eyes. My eyes are blue, so I've picked midnight blue, which is the darkest blue. It looks black. I've picked blue. I've picked sky blue, and I've also got a little bit of sea green, because when I look at my eyes, these are the colors that I see in there. Everyone's eyes are a little different, so you need to, again, practice on your paper to kind of figure out what it is you're going to do for your eyes. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and do this on my paper because I figured this out already, what I want to do. I'm going to start with the really dark blue, and I'm going to press firmly with it. I'm going to color in the entire circle, not leaving anything for the pupil, which, as we all know, is the black spot in the middle of the eye. I'm trying to stay within my lines that I've created. Then when I color this next bit in, I'm going to make it striated like the iris of an eye, which means it kind of comes out like spokes of a wheel. It's important that you follow the contours of your face and other things to make your picture really seem three-dimensional. I'm going to layer my colors on here. My eyes are a fairly light blue. Every eye color has a dark circle around the edge. I forget the name of that. There is a name for it. Off the top of my head, I can't think of what it is. And I'm going to continue to layer until my eyes are a little bit lighter, and then I'm probably going to go back in and add a little bit more of my dark blue to finish it off. Now your eyes are going to look really creepy at this point, because if your eyes had no pupil, you would look like you have a vacant stare, which is creepy. This is one of those few times you can actually use your black. And these aren't sharpened, so you can kind of rub them on paper to sharpen them if you want to. It's better just to kind of try to find a corner you can use. And if you're rubbing away, you noticed before I did this, that's easier than rubbing, because if you rub it, it's very likely that you will smear it. Right here it's a little bit dark, so I'm actually going to go in and add just the tiniest bit of white to lighten that up a little bit. The next thing you're going to do is start with your skin tone. Again, you're going to want to practice on a piece of paper. My skin is fairly pale, but it has mostly this apricot kind of undertone. So if you start by coloring lightly, which is what you always want to do, then I'm going to add a little bit of peach over top of it to kind of blend it together. It's getting to be close, and finally I'm going to blend it with some white to really press it in place. And hopefully that's close to my skin tone. Now, it is an art material, so you're not going to get it exactly the way that you look. If you're more tan than me, you know, maybe a little more apricot or brown even, depending on what your skin tone is. So when I color this in, I don't want to color it just straight across. That's going to make my face appear flat. I want to use rounded strokes of my oil pastel tool. I'm going to try to keep it out of my hair, although my hair probably has some of this in it as well. I'm actually going to put a little bit of white on my nose and also on the side of my cheek over here to add some undertones. You'll notice how that smeared my pencil mark, which I don't know if you can see that on that there, but it's gonna, if you use one of my drawing pencils, it's gonna blend it a little bit in with your gray. You want to keep those strokes rounded. I'm not covering up my eyebrows, although I could, because again, my eyebrows will have some of that apricot under them. Use rounded strokes on my cheek, not like a clown and circles, but just kind of to follow the contours of my face. Under my lip, it's kind of straight down. It's going to look a little like a mustache to start with until I blend everything in. Again, the end of my nose is round, so I want to make sure I use rounded strokes on that. I want to be careful not to catch any of my eye color on my skin because it will pull it down and bleed. Down here at the bottom of your chin, it's kind of rounded. I'm actually going to put a light layer of this over my lips because your lips are kind of your skin with a little bit of pink or red mixed in, depending. And you do need to look at yourself when you do this. We are making these from observation. We want to see what we're drawing. Can't draw what we can't see. My ears need a little color tone as well. Then I'm going to take my peach, go back in. I'm doing a little bit darker this time. Above my eyes, it's going to be a little darker. There are shadows there. My cheeks will be lighter. You notice how I mixed my blue in there. If that happens, just kind of go with it. Make the most of it. As I've said, we can't really erase. Again, I'm using rounded strokes to make sure that this continues to look three-dimensional. I'm not worrying about my nostrils or any other really shadows yet, so to speak. But I will address the shadows in a moment. Right now everything's kind of getting blurred together, and that's okay because we'll go back and add some definition in a minute. We want to get an overall good skin palette going here. You can see my chin is kind of popping out there, and that's because of those rounded strokes. Hopefully you can see that. But you'll notice I'm not coloring it just straight across my face because I don't want my face to look plain. I'm going to go back now in with my white, and I'm going to try to blend it a little bit. Now if I've drawn too hard, my lines that I have underneath my white are going to show up, so you want to use those just light kind of coverage for the first few layers, and you can build it up. The cool thing about oil pastels is you can continue to build layers. If you don't like what you have, you can kind of press over it hard enough. Sometimes if you get your color thick enough, you actually can scrape some of it away. There'll be a underline, but then you can add more layers back. Hopefully you'll see dimensions of the face kind of coming back in. I'm going to go back and add some darker tones around my eyes in a minute because I think it's a little too light around there. It may take you some time practicing before you get your skin tone. I've done this a lot, and so I kind of have an idea of what my skin tone looks like and my lips and that sort of thing. It may take you a while to get there. Don't get frustrated. Don't throw in the towel. Don't say, well, I can't find my skin tone, so... And you can help each other kind of come up with stuff. If you find something that works, help your friends kind of figure out, well, your skin tone has a little more of this color in it, or maybe more of this. Try that. And I mean, get a big piece of paper to practice on because you're going to need it. It's starting to get that nice texture that we want, so it actually looks like a face. At this point, you can smear with your finger, but it's going to end up looking more like a blur if you do that. So I'd recommend just adding more thick layers to what you have going on. You can always go back in and add more. Hopefully it's coming in on this. Again, your lip is a muscle, remember? Your lips are muscles, so I'm going to use that same striated sort of mark that I used in the eyes to give it the color that I want. I'm even going to add a little bit of that blue violet I mentioned before, and if you're thinking, well, why do I want to add blue purple? Blue purple is great for shadowing. And I'm going to blend in. I'm going to use those same striated strokes. And I know some of you are thinking, my lips aren't that color. Well, then blend and make the color that you need. This is my portrait. Don't tell me how to do it. Kind of thing. Add a little peach in there to subdue it, because it probably was just a little bit red. The same thing is going to happen with my nose up here. I'm going to add a little bit of my blue purple for my shadows. I'm not going to press real hard, just enough to kind of give an idea of where they're going to be. And then I'm going to go back and blend it, so it's not just a purple line on my face. I'm following the same contours that I had before. Some darker tones here under my mouth. Well, you can start to see the portrait emerge. I'm gonna, for my nostrils, I am gonna take a little bit of that black, just a little bit. I don't want to overdo it. And go back in. Blend it out a little bit. This will make a mess, so be careful not to get it on your clothes, because it is hard to get it out. You can kind of see it starting to, if you blend it too much, it's going to pill up like this, which means come off the paper a little bit. If you're blending with your fingers, you want to wash your fingers periodically at the sink to make sure that they're not smearing color. But I'll do one side with my fingers so you can see the comparison. I don't personally like blending with my finger as much for this particular project. It's okay for other projects that I've done, but for this one, when I blend, I feel like it takes off too much of the color and undoes the work that I just did. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. It gives it a little bit of a smoother look, but I also feel like it takes away from some of the color. But that's a personal choice that you as the artist will have to make. Now, my hair is a brown color with some darker undertones, so I'm going to, I told you not to color it in with pencil, and I meant that. At the root, where it comes out, I'm going to add a little black, and I'm going to make it curved, like my hair would be coming out of my head. I'm going to add just light black. Those of you that have seen me, you know my hair is not black, but it needs some darker undertones. I'm going to put that down around, making hair-like strokes. They're not all, again, straight, because I want it to actually look like hair when I add my color in. And this, I'm going really fast. I don't expect you to go quickly like this. I would rather you take your time and really put some energy into it. At the roots, it's much darker usually, unless you dye your hair really dark and your hair is light, which would be the opposite. I'm going to add in my brown now, and I'm going to press fairly hard this time because my hair is primarily brown. This brown that we're using has a lot of red in it, so you may have to tone it down a little bit with the apricot and then go back over it with some black to blend it. Oil pastel, very often, you're going to have to just really blend to make it have the color that you want. Now, if we were using more professional grade oil pastel with a lot more color choices, you could easily get the colors that you want without having to blend as much, but that's not what we're using because those are expensive. And as an art program here, we don't have that kind of money to spend on oil pastels, which is okay because that way we get a more variety of art materials to use. But I'm blending this up. I'll have to go back in with my black and re-add some of my marks, but hopefully you kind of see how this is coming together to make the hair color that I'm going for. Again, I'm pressing kind of firmly because I really want this color to be my main color. And you can see how the black is not so pronounced now. If you break your oil pastels, it's okay. I've broken many in my time. Don't throw them away. They're still useful. Just because they're broken doesn't mean you can't use them. Let's see. So now you can hardly see my black undertones at all. So I'm going to go back in, add a few more of them. Again, this is a layering process. You just have to build it up and work with it until it gets to be the color that you want it to be.